Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Trash Mix Podcast. And it is January Giallo, and we got a special guest here today. Who is it, Joey?
Yeah, if you live in LA, there's no reason why you shouldn't know who our guest is today. But you know, for those who don't know, we have Jim Branscome of Cinematic Void. At this point, I guess we can say is an LA staple. I mean, if you live in LA, you've probably gone to at least one of his movies.
I don't go around.
Yeah, well, you live far.
And even then, when I've been, it's always been a blast. I've never been disappointed.
Yeah, consistently, Jim has a monthly screening series called Cinematic Void. Every month is a different theme, you can say. And I mean, I think I'm okay with saying that, you know, you've kind of spawned, or at least brought to the zeitgeist the term, or I guess the theme of January Giallo. Is that correct?
That's correct. It actually started pre-Void, because back a couple years before I started Cinematic Void, maybe a year or so, like I had been working with Rendezvous, which you also are part of. Yeah. I think our times were not at the same time.
Yeah, I think so. When I first met you would have been like, I don't know, 13 years ago or something like that, which would have been like right when you kind of started focusing more on Cinematic Void.
Yeah.
Because you originally, for those who know Rendezvous, if you've been to the bar, you've seen we have the projector playing, and I believe you were the one who started originally doing like the edits of all those montages, right?
They might. I think before I started doing like montages and like picking movies for Rendezvous, it was like they would just play a movie or just play a series of movies, like I started cutting them trailer reels or clip reels, and we usually themed them around the movie. So it was kind of the precursor of what I was going to do for Cinematic Void. And I think it was, I could be wrong, it's either January 2015 or 16. Oh, look at that. I did not move my phone. Andrew F. from Severin, so
shout out to Severin.
Yeah. And he's asked about which version I'm showing a Bay of Blood for January Giallo. So
it'll be the Severin version.
It's the Severin version. I should text him back. But I'm being rude here.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Ah, goddamn, and autocorrect. It doesn't like. Anyway, sorry, I'm being a dick here.
You're good,
I forgot I had it on when I was driving here. But anyway, it was January, and I just had ideas like January Giallo for Rendezvous. And then when I started doing Cinematic Void, I started in like a February.
Yeah.
And basically, when it came to January, I was like, I just kind of had an idea because I love Giallo films, and I hadn't shown any. And I was like, well, January Giallo, sure, why
nobody was really showing Giallo, like, I mean, at least not as I guess frequent as they play now, I guess you could say, right?
Yeah, I mean, New Bev would play them, obviously. Yeah. Shout out to my friend Phil.
Shout out to Phil, yeah.
And there was a programmer, Chris D, who used to be at the American Cinematheque. He was in the band The Flesh Eaters and stuff like that. He was a programmer, and he would show Giallo films, and but I don't think a lot of people were really kind of marketing him, because you could do an Argento film, but when you went deeper, it was always a harder sell.
Oh yeah.
So I think that first year I did Deep Red, because something I learned, to get people coaxed into it, you gotta start with the Argento, and I think Deep Red's it's my number 2 out of my top 10 Giallo films. And then I did why am I blanking on it? The Night Evelyn Came Out of the Grave, which is kind of
classic.
a gothic.
That was a good one. Yeah.
It was a weird print. It was half Agfa film stock, half Eastman. So it went from faded to having some color to faded. It was.
I wouldn't want to watch it any other way, man.
It was pretty wonky but fun. And then I showed The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward. I think it was under the Ripper, or one of those kind of alternate U.S. titles, which is Sergio Martino, which is my favorite Giallo film.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's definitely a top 3 for me as well.
I saw that one when you had Sergio there in person.
Oh,
that was
nice.
Amazing. That was a good night.
Yeah, and that. We can get into that at some point. I don't want to sidetrack too much, but bringing Sergio took years. It was something I talked about, and just when it finally happened, I was like, oh, thank God this finally happened, because it's. I think when it comes to Italian filmmakers, especially of that ilk, certain ones have gotten the DAP per se. And for us to bring him over and do a sold-out screening at the Egyptian, and him just giving an insanely fun Q&A. I actually got to go to the Music Box in Chicago and do a Q&A with him again, and he did a completely different Q&A. He's like, LA, we're going to keep it fun. Chicago, we're going to be very real and dark. So he told all these dark World War II stories. And But it was a blast to hang out with him. He had so many good stories and was just generous with his time.
Yeah, that was absolutely one of the best screenings of the year. I forced everyone to go to that. I was like, if you don't come to this, you're fucking up.
Convinced me. He's like, oh, come on, there's a ticket available. I was like, all right. So I go and I was like, hey, this is a good movie. Hey, that guy's fucking awesome.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because Torso is like kind of the quintessential. Torso is the one he's known for.
Oh yeah.
And like in a weird way, I think it's like as innovative and groundbreaking as it is, especially when there's the pivot, like the slasher hybrid aspect of it. It's kind of one of my, out of all the Giallo films, it's my least favorite of them because I feel like it's weirdly the safest.
Yeah, you know what? Now that you say that, yeah, I mean, it does feel kind of formulaic a little bit, in a sense, but I can see what you're saying that it doesn't really swing for the fences like some of like the lesser titles do. You know, sometimes they go a little bit abstract, which those are kind of hit or miss. Those kind of Giallos where they're like, well, they're cool, but sometimes you gotta like, nah, I'll stick with the classics. But
yeah, I mean, because if you look at his first run, it's like Mrs. Ward, which is like an all-time class. It's
all time.
It hits the formula perfectly. You got the Case of the Scorpion's Tail, which more of a like a light breezy kind of like, dare I say, Hitchcockian and like travel adventure Giallo with like double crossing and ex-wives having money and then getting murdered kind of stuff. All the Colors of Dark is kind of on the Rosemary's Baby end of the spectrum of the genre, which some people will say isn't, but I think there's enough things in All the Colors that kind of keep it there.
Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess I would entertain the argument that it's not, but I feel like it. I mean.
There's enough, and there's enough, like, I think it gets the most psychedelic out of all of them, clearly. And Your Vice is a Locked Room is just, it's doing Edgar Allan Poe, which is another, like, Giallo trope, where, like, you're doing, like, Edgar Wallace or Poe or Agatha Christie or pulling from that stuff. And that movie's just bonkers. Like, it's just like, hey, you want to sit and watch a movie with, like, some of the most horrible human beings that ever existed? You want to see them die? Here's a film for you.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of talked about it before we started, rolling on recording here, but I think a lot of times people watch these movies, and I'm glad that they're getting a big shine. These movies some of them are amazing, some of them, like I said, not so great, but as a whole, I think the genre of Giallo kind of deserves the spotlight that it's been getting in the last couple of years. But I think with that, a lot of times people kind of confuse or conflate, genres, and they kind of start mislabeling things, which I know we kind of talked about before we started rolling. But I want to get your take on when people confuse, movies for being a Giallo. Like, is that something you feel like you have to correct, or do you want to correct, or do you just kind of be like, you know what, let these people decide for themselves, and as they get deeper into the genre, they'll start to formulate their own ideas of what is and what isn't a Giallo? I
mean, let's talk about the
elephant in the room.
Yes, which is like the yellow elephant in the room, which is Suspiria. And I get why people think it is, because usually their first exposure to Dario Argento is Suspiria, and he's kind of synonymous with Giallo, so that's where all that comes from. But like, and a lot of people that get into horror movies and stuff, there's a lot of, I don't want to say casual, but like certain people don't go very deep.
Yeah, very surface level. Yeah.
They'll hit the hits, and that's all they need. It's like people that go to horror conventions, like nothing against them, but they love a certain kind of movie or a franchise, and like, you could try to introduce them to something like, it's like, hey, if you like this, you should check it out. This is just as insane or better or more interesting. And they're like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm good. I'm going to buy another Freddy Krueger or Jason Voorhees shirt and like hang them up or whatever, that kind of stuff. But like, I think Giallo's kind of, it's in the zeitgeist now, because you'll hear like modern movies that get it thrown at it, like Last Night in Soho and things like that. And like, I think people say it as a buzzword because it'll get people like me excited, and then I see some of those movies and I'm like, the fuck? It's like, have you watched a movie, let alone a Giallo movie kind of thing? And I'm not trying to pick on movies, but like I think the ones that kind of work, especially in the modern sense, like the Scary 61st. I know Dasha just got canceled, whatever, but like I think like as a modern Giallo, it works because it's just a fucked up kind of like throwback of like the insane thriller. It has occult elements, but yeah, they're a little over the top, but they're not so much as over the top as like, you know, complete supernatural, but like it's just the way and the vibes of it, and also the aesthetics, because I think a lot of Giallo films need to be sleazy, because at their core they're very sleazy. Even the Argento ones, I think people like look at Suspiria because it's a fairy tale and it's like got colors and that kind of stuff, and that double murder is one of the best double murders ever put on film. However, if you watch how he shoots that double murder versus how he shoots something like Tenebrae or Deep Red, it's not the same. And
yeah,
even
vastly different.
Yeah, vastly different. And Argento himself says it's not a Giallo. He says it's a supernatural thriller. And he's like influenced by Snow White and like Technicolor films and fairy tales. Like the other one, which will get lumped in there, is Inferno. I think you can make a better case for Inferno because he does some things in there that are kind of closer. But even that's kind of just a little too far out of the spectrum of being a Giallo film.
Yeah, I've gone on record saying I'm not a huge fan of Inferno. I think that was one of the last Argento movies that I watched, and for some reason it just does not connect with me at all. I know some people, you know, they put it on the top, you know, on the top of the Argento echelon, but I don't know. I just never. It's something about it that it just doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't land with me. I've always found it a little boring, a little slow. I mean, you know, visually it's gorgeous. You know, those underwater scenes in Inferno are, you know, second to none. But I don't know. I mean, have you seen Inferno, Armando?
I'm gonna just say I really haven't seen much Argento.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, there's nothing wrong with that either.
No.
I've seen the obvious stuff, but not everything. I haven't seen Inferno. Yeah.
See, I'm one of those guys who loves Inferno, but I can understand why someone wouldn't, because it's really weird and it's like very different. But it's like one of the few times he worked with Mario Bava, because Mario Bava like staged a lot of like the effects there in the movie, like the visual stuff. I was cutting one of the January Giallo trailers and like I was doing Bay of Blood, and there's a shot where it's like it starts in focus on the moon or something, and it like goes out of focus, and when it comes back in focus it's like a close-up with someone's eye, and then like that shit's fucking crazy.
Sick, yeah.
And I mean, Bava's good for it. I like Inferno because I feel like in a way it's kind of the antithesis of the Flash of Suspiria. It has the same colors and that kind of stuff, but also it's just, if you ask Argento, like when we had him for Beyond Fest, which was like 2017, maybe 18.
I think it was 17.
Yeah, time gets muddy now. But my friend Will Morris, who now is at the Music Box in Chicago, and he does the Oscar Bait podcast and talks a lot about Jess Franco.
Love it, yeah.
But like, he was Argento's handler when we had him for that Beyond Fest, and we went to a bar with him after one of the screenings because Dario was like, "Oh, come have a drink." I was like, "Sure, we're gonna have a drink with Dario." And he's just sitting there, he's like, "You know, Suspiria, it's okay. Inferno is my masterpiece." And Will and I are those kind of assholes. We're like, "Oh, really? Please tell us more." And then Will did a Q&A with him for the last night we had him, and I was like, "Will, you got to get him to say that Inferno is like better than Suspiria." And like Will set him up. He's like, "Yeah, you know, Suspiria is good. Inferno is my masterpiece," and just like breaking hearts that whole Q&A. But at the same time, it's like I have opinions. A lot of people are going to think my opinions are wrong. That's fine. It's the thing is like, you know, trying to argue with someone what is or isn't a Giallo is like, some people are just, you're never going to change your mind.
Oh, yeah.
There's body evidence. There's Giallo books. There's like tons of them. And Suspiria is never included in it. But like, what are you going to do? You can't convince someone that's like, just because they saw a movie or like saw a fucking TikTok. Like, you can't beat someone that's seen a TikTok, because TikTok is the way people learn now.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm so glad I'm not on TikTok, because I feel like
that was a good point there. So everybody believes everything on TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up Bay of Blood, which, you know, I'm glad you did, because that's actually the first, not just Giallo, but first Italian horror movie that I ever watched. That would have been 2002 or something like that. And I, of course, I bought it under its title, Twitch of the Death Nerve. So I didn't even know what a Giallo was at that time. And then now looking back, you can see, it's the proto slasher, but
Yeah. I mean, Friday the 13th, like, owes
everything. Yeah.
Like, so much. But, like, I mean, yeah, because it's definitely the slasher Giallo hybrid. Because, like, it's sort of like Torso, where, like, they do some clever things in it. And I want to say something about Torso. I know I was saying, like, in terms of the Martino Gialli, it's kind of like the simplest, but, like, there's sequence in it, like, unparalleled. The cat and mouse scene at the end with Susie Kendall, like, when she's got the bust up foot and the killer's just, like, letting her, like, fucking...
She's trying to get the key.
Yeah, that shit is fucking incredible. Like, there's not a sequence in many movies as good as that. But, I do think the ending and the killer's reasoning for killing is, like... I don't know about that, man. I think you could have gone to therapy. I think you could have gone to your works HR and cleared it up or something. Like, you didn't have to kill a bunch of people.
See, that's the one thing that I hear of people that I try to introduce to the genre is they always feel that the ending of a Giallo is either it fucking lands it or it's a cop out, which sometimes it's kind of the way that the mystery unfolds. You kind of have to have like a cop-out ending almost, because it's always like the smallest little detail in the movie that you'll never fucking ever pay attention to, and you're like, well, what the fuck, like why is that like the grand thing that makes this movie work or or breaks the movie. So I guess my question is what are I guess themes or set pieces or things that need to happen to consider a movie a Giallo versus a slasher, in your opinion?
I think it's just like in the tone, like the main crux of like a lot of the Giallo films is their murder mysteries.
Yeah.
And there's a whodunit aspect because it's going back to like, the Creamies, which were in Germany, and then film noir. And I mean, to be honest, Giallo as a genre existed in Italy since the like silent era.
Oh yeah.
And I think a lot of people like it had two moments where it got popular, because everyone always points to like The Evil Eye, the Mario Bava movie, as like that was the beginning of the genre, but it was more in the commercial sense of like being popular. Where it really got popular was the Bird with Crystal Plumage, because that's when Italy, like said, pivoted and like said, fuck spaghetti westerns. We're making all these movies for the next like 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, it was like an explosion of Giallo.
I mean, it's just how Italy works. Like, they would just jump on a genre and just beat it to his fucking dead. And then when the parodies came,
it was over.
Yeah. Once you got the comedy version of it, like, they moved on, because then you got the Eurocrime that came after it, and then like Jungle Adventures and like that, all kinds of stuff. But Bird was the one that kind of like where everyone was like, oh, we're all making Giallo films. And like some people like Martino made a set of like incredible ones that are up there with Argento's. And Roberto Lenzi, like, he was making more so the like the erotic thriller variant in the 60s. And that's another thing a Giallo film usually has, is eroticism.
Oh yeah.
And there's that, there's like people of like weird morals or bad morals. Like, you're not necessarily supposed to be invested or like the people that are like your protagonist kind of way. And sometimes is the protagonist actually the killer? Are they involved? What secrets they're holding? There's all kinds of that kind of stuff. So it's like moral gray area for your heroine or hero or whatever. I guess the other big trope to look at, and I just had a thought and it just slipped away. This is give me a second here.
it happens all the time.
Yeah, it's the drive. I blame it on the drive. Like, just thinking in like terms of like Giallo films, it's the murder set pieces, which is like one of the standards, that like the way the setups to the kills, like there's something about like, because a lot of Giallo films, like beautiful production design, some of them be boring as shit. Like, I love the genre, but like, especially if you have a bunch of people sitting around a fucking dining room table for 20 minutes and nothing's happening, you kind of need the murders to be really good. And the murders aren't up to snuff. It's like, it's kind of tedious to get through. But like, you're talking about endings, like a lot of Giallo film endings, like a lot of them end with dummy drops, which is like, that's great. Like, just throw a fucking dummy off the top of a building and have it hit, and like that's a pretty final ending, I think. But I also think a lot of movies don't have good endings. And I think, like, when you watch a murder mystery where, like, the ending, you have to feel, like, a little more satisfaction from it. Or, like, I figured it out. Or, like, it's really good, like, I couldn't figure it out. And then when you think back, like, oh, all the clues were there and it works. That's where it, like, lands. But, if, like, I think Ernesto Gastaldi, who was Martino's main, like, collaborator on all his Giallo films, and, like, also wrote a ton of the other great ones outside the Argento canon. Like he said, like, I never cheat. I always find a reason to get to point A to B to C. Like, you don't introduce a character in the third act of, like, just because you want something to happen. Like, everything's set up.
Yeah.
Like, even in Torso, everything is actually set up along the way.
Yeah, I think that's like the difference between a good Giallo and a bad one is exactly what you just said, is that the viewer is not cheated into getting to the ending where you feel like, well, man, what the fuck? Like, this guy had a gold fucking lapel pin and I didn't fucking pay attention, but that was like the clue that I meant. You know, something like that to me is the cop out ending versus something like you said, like Torso, where the story just keeps building and building and everything has a purpose to get to the ending. You don't ever feel cheated or like, man, that was stupid. Like, what the hell? Yeah,
like you can have misdirects, but the misdirects can't be a cheat or like just a lie or something like that. Just like something dishonest that like pulls you one way. You have to like do that without like lying to the audience, because if you lie, then it's just like, well,
what's the point?
What's the point? You just lied so you could do this thing. You didn't think of a genuine way to get there. And now I actually remember my other point is like a lot of the characters in these films, they're all like artists, musicians, photographers, like don't have real jobs.
Real bohemians.
Yeah, like you watch them, they live these decadent lives, and it's like, what the fuck do you do for money? Like, they live in the nicest places I've ever seen on a film. Like, if I could live in one of those like villas or like fucking apartments in like Italy in the 70s, that'd be a dream.
My favorite is the house in Four Flies and Grey Velvet. That's like the fucking dopest. Like, he's got the best sound system in there. Like, if I could live in a Giallo house, I'd live in that one for sure.
And he's just a fucking drummer.
Yeah.
Like, do they pay that well for drummers in like the 70s? Like, or like, are we just fucked in this day and age where the housing market is just so unattainable? Where like you could be like, oh, I'm a musician, I'll make a lot of money, but look at my fucking pad.
Well, I pretty much agree with everything you said, honestly. And that's kind of one thing that I always, whenever I'm talking to someone who's not really familiar with the genre, I always try to kind of bring it to layman's terms and kind of explain like how a Giallo story is supposed to, unfold versus just being a slasher, like a Friday the 13th compared to, Bay of Blood, Twitch of the Death Nerve, where they're similar, but to me, Bay of Blood is a Giallo, know, and I will go on record with saying that, and if you want to argue, that's fine. We can argue, in private, hit up the DMs, but
I'm sure someone will. But like, and as I've done January Giallo, there's been cheat films I've done. Like the year that actually made January Giallo sustainable as a thing that could grow, and I could like, let like work with other theaters across the country do, was like I did what I call a cheat year. I did originally all I was going to do Tenebrae and Dress to Kill, because I wanted to do like Argento versus De Palma, because De Palma, out of all the American filmmakers, probably made the most American giallo.
Yeah.
And did it well. And him and Argento had this weird silent beef where Argento was like, he's stealing from me, and De Palma's like, I don't know who he is, kind of thing. So I pitched it, and Cinematheque agreed to it, and it was like, hey, why don't you do more Argento De Palma movies? So I was like, all right, well, we're going to make money, so we're going to do Suspiria and Carrie, and then we'll do Blow Up and Inferno.
Mm-hmm.
And, 4 of those 6 movies aren't giallo. But, like, I remember when someone laughed, like, oh, you playing Carrie? I'm like, yeah, Carrie's just much of a giallo as, like, Suspiria is. And, like, if you watch Suspiria and Carrie back to back, they're both, like, school movies.
Yeah.
One's ballet school, one's high school, and they both end with fire.
One thing, I guess, especially for, the movie that we're going to talk about today, but, when someone says giallo adjacent, I feel like that term gets thrown around so fucking much now, and sometimes undeservedly. Now, there are movies that I think that term can get thrown to. Well, one American movie that I fucking love, and then I've tried to show it to as many people as possible is, and I don't remember if you've screened this or not, but The Clairvoyant. Have you?
I've seen The Clairvoyant. Right? Yeah, it's I forget about the guy also did the movie. Blanking on the name of the movie, but it was the Tom Hanks's debut. It's the same guy.
He Knows You're Alone.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Like, and that one has some Giallo-esque, Giallo Jason.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, I think that's a perfect example. I haven't screened it because I think the rights are kind of, like, somewhere that I have no idea.
Maybe I just wanted you to screen it. That's what
I'll be honest with you. I've looked into playing it as, like, what I call the Giallo Jason pick, or that's kind of what I've started doing, because it's like, you know, there's a pressure in LA where you have to play 35 millimeter or a film element, and that's great. I get it. People were spoiled here. There ain't a lot of Giallo film prints left.
Yeah, these things are finite, you know.
And, like, they're also, a lot of them are faded. A lot of them are beat up. Like, even the nice prints that I've played are warped and go on vinegar syndrome and all that. So it's like, that material is dying. And as much as I would like to, like, you know, keep doing it, eventually I'm going to run out of things I can show on film. So I started looking at, like, what American or like other countries that could show, and it's been like kind of an interesting thing. And I did, like, kind of on accident, well, kind of on purpose, like after one of the January Giallo months, I did like a February month where I did like kind of serial killer movies or cops are chasing them, and there was a bunch of Giallo Jason movies in there.
That was a great month, actually.
Yeah, because it was like Strip to Kill, which
love that movie.
Definitely Giallo Jason. Tightrope, very Giallo Jason. Night Game, very Giallo Jason. The only one that wasn't really was Manhunter, but like even that you could probably pull some things.
Yeah, you could pick and choose some things.
Pick and choose, but I wouldn't call it Giallo Jason by any stretch. But like the other three, I think you can make a good case for. And I think people start throwing around Giallo Jason because, like, again, it's like instead of saying American Giallo or Giallo Throwback, they're like, oh, it's a soft way of saying there's Giallo elements to it. And then you watch those movies like, what the fuck are you talking about, kind of thing. But, and I've, you know, there's certain ones I think, and I'll use an example, which I know is going to be a polarizing movie, which is I Know Who Killed Me, the Lindsay Lohan movie. I think it's the best example of American Giallo because it does the one thing that a lot of them don't do. It leans into the logic and just gets ridiculous. If you took out Lindsay Lohan and Chris Severson who directed and put in Sergio Martino, Edwidge Fenech, or Carol Baker and Umberto Lenzi and did basically the same movie, it would play out like a Giallo exactly. And one of the interesting things I think worked was like Chris, who directed his influences. He was like, he watched Argento, but he was watching later stuff like Stendhal Syndrome.
Which I like Stendhal Syndrome.
Yeah, that was his first Argento movie, but he was also watching David Lynch and like, you know, Blue Velvet and Twin Peaks and like those things because they have murder mystery elements. Kind of throws back, and he was watching De Palma, Dress to Kill, and things like that. So he was not pulling necessarily from the Italian canon, but he was pulling those things from those other movies that had the elements, and it just kind of coalesced into being one thing. And like, you know, the color palette he used, like the killer had blue gloves, not black gloves, but like if you watch it as a Giallo, it's very satisfying. As opposed to how people watch it, oh, it's a movie where Lindsay Lohan was a fucking mess and like ruined her life. But that's also a Giallo trip because how many actors had to leave America to go to Europe to do fucking crazy exploitation movies
just to make a living?
Yeah, it's like you got fucking like Telly Savalas and like Lisa and the Devil and like Ray Milland and like stuff. Like all these old Hollywood actors who couldn't work in America went to Europe and are in some of the most fucking bonkers exploitation movies ever made.
I mean, that's how you get, you know, I know, you know, you had talked about it on your upcoming series of having fucking Donald Pleasance eating out of fucking McDonald's or whatever the fuck. You know, that's how you get scenes like that, is where these actors, they fucking need to make a living, right? So who's going to hire them? Go to an exploitation director or the Italians mainly, really, and they'll cast them into these roles, and you get these fucking. Sometimes they're magic, sometimes they're you can laugh at them. But
I think in the case of Donald and the Wendy scene from Nothing Underneath, like Donald was like he had a period where he just was in Italy because he did like Phenomena. There was what's the Umberto Ruggero Deodato one? I think it's Phantom Killer.
With
Michael York and Edwidge in it, and like like he's in that, and like there's a scene in every one of those movies where Donald just kind of just goes for it, like Phantom Killer, or I think it's Phantom Killer. I might be saying the wrong title. Someone online will correct me and be like, you don't know. It's like, fuck you. Anyway, but there's a scene where Donald just starts swearing in the middle of a square in Italy for like 5 minutes, and it's just incredible. And like all those Italian movies he was doing, like I think like he was getting paid well, probably enjoyed being in Europe, probably enjoyed the food, and like he'd have at least 1 or 2 scenes where he could fuck around, just do something insane and be like, all right, cool.
See you guys later. Thanks for the paycheck.
I mean, because like that's another aspect if you look, but that's not just Giallo films or Giallo adjacent films. That was just like film.
Yeah.
Because like it wasn't just in Italy. It was Spain. It was France. It was Germany. Like all those actors worked the circuit and just like got that last couple of paychecks before they couldn't get one anymore. But yeah, like. Not even has-been actors, because a lot of those actors are still good actors. They either got blacklisted, or they fucked up really bad, or like were considered box office poison here, but they still had a name over in Europe where it mattered. And also, when you think about when you get in the 80s in Italy, a lot of stuff was going to like home video, HBO, and stuff like that. So that's why it meant something to have like a name actor that you could recognize. Sure, they're in like 5 minutes in the movie, but like...
whatever gets people to watch the movie.
I mean, that's what Robert Englund does.
Yeah.
Robert Englund gets paid to be in like 3 minutes of a movie and put his name on top billing.
Am I crazy? And this is completely off topic, but I saw he was credited in Stranger Things, and I'm like,
isn't he like in like one episode?
I have
like
no idea.
No, he is one episode. So my partner teaches fitness aerobics. She's at Killer Fitness right now. She teaches Terror Twist. She got kind of like asked to do a Stranger Things based class and to teach like songs based on it. And I don't know if you know anything about 80s songs. They're all 5-6 minutes long.
Yeah.
They all have buttons. They're hard to fucking choreograph. But she had to watch the episode she hadn't seen. Like I have not made it past season 1 of Stranger Things.
I'm going through it right now just because I was like curious, but then I'm in the middle of season 4, and I gotta say they lost the plot. But I saw at the end of the credits, I saw Robert Englund. What the fuck? Where the hell was he in this episode? I didn't even.
So there's a character called Vecna, which seems very familiar to a certain burned child murderer who became a stand-up comedian.
Oh yeah.
So of course they cast Robert Englund, who has his eyes gouged fucking out and sewed up, doing this fucking long monologue. And it's like, cool, get your paycheck. Like that's all I can say. He got paid. He probably got paid more than whatever he gets paid to be in like whatever like ridiculous movie he shows up for 3 minutes. Like he actually was acting.
Yeah. Well, you know.
I mean, it's Netflix. He probably wanted to get another one of those paychecks. So like you got to put in that for where it matters.
Well, you know, we digress on that part, but I guess that brings us to the main point of the discussion that we're talking about. A movie that Armando suggested to us.
I had a hard time picking. I was like, what do I want Jim to see? What do I want Joey to see?
Well, you know, I really wish we had Jim for the last one, because I think you would really like that movie a lot, actually. Muerte del Chacal, which, you know, maybe we'll email you a link so you can watch it.
I definitely want to check it out.
I think that's something that would fit in the Giallo adjacent programming. If, you know, I don't even know how possible it would be to get that to screen. But
not to interrupt, but before we get like kind of wrap up the Giallo adjacent thing, like I think it's, and since we're going to be talking about the movie here, it's like there's elements that like it's not necessarily Giallo, but it takes the elements and kind of does its own thing. I was talking about I Know Who Killed Me, which I think is a good example. Like obviously of The Eyes of Laura Mars, which was another perfect example. Then you get something like Don't Look Now, which was made in Italy, and it was like, I don't know if you've ever seen Who Saw Her Die.
Oh yeah.
There's a weird like parallel to both of those movies, both in Venice kind of stuff. And you know, one of the picks I'm going to do for this January Giallo is Robert Altman's Images, which kind of comes from like more the Repulsion or Persona end of like those kind of movies, but like those also kind of have like some little Giallo things in it. And I think with Images, he kind of leans into it because like there's definitely a guy with black gloves in it.
Oh yeah.
For like 3 seconds, but still,
hey, but it's there, you know.
It's there. And there's the weird logic and like nightmares and that kind of stuff. But like, yeah. But let's get into the movie, because we're going to be discussing if this was a Giallo Jason.
Yeah, so that was the thing too. I was like, well, let me see, what do these guys think? Is this going to be a Giallo? Because even online, people say it's a Giallo. You go to IMDb.
Yeah, the tags on this are
Giallo,
Latin American
like,
Giallo,
and then
Mexican Giallo.
Maybe. I mean, and then like I was telling Joy, it does have like a very European tone to it and everything. And that's just really what it reminded me of. It was like something that maybe an Italian would make or something. So I was like, all right, I want Jim to see El Profeta Mimi from 1973.
Yeah, El Profeta Mimi, 1973, as Armando said. I mean, we'll get into like the cast and crew, but I think the one sentence plot of this, I guess, is just basically this dude is a religious fanatic, kind of the type of person who follows religion blindly, and is kind of encased in his own home. It's like this claustrophobic hellhole of just religion with his mom.
Yeah,
and
mom's like super religious. She forces him to pray, and he's like, he doesn't really want to, but he's like, you have to pray.
Yeah, and there's prostitutes are being murdered, and I think before we get into like the cast and crew, the one thing that really kind of I don't want to say pissed me off, because that's a very strong way, but it felt like anti-Giallo, because we learn who the fucking killer is in the first 3 minutes of this movie, which to me it was always like, man, like this movie would have worked so much better if we didn't know who it was until that final scene where that monologue happens. But let's get into it. Armando, who directed El Profeta Mimi?
So Profeta Mimi was directed by a guy named Jose Estrada. He was called El Perro, which is the dog. I'm not really sure why. That was just the
Mexicans have funny nicknames, like like El Gato, fucking the Tigre, like just random animal nicknames.
He's called El Perro.
Yeah.
And he was an UNAM alum, and UNAM's like a very prestigious college over there, university. And if you look at his filmography, like during the 70s, he was just making movies about poverty, like the middle class, working class people, just like their struggles and so forth. And in this one, it's the same thing. It's like you see these people from like, poverty, and, they're struggling on their own, and with religion too, they want to know what religion is right, or what religion should I go into.
Well, too, like, I mean, not to cut you off, but like they kind of live like, I mean, in the beginning it's a flashback, so you kind of see where they're living. They almost had like a bohemian lifestyle, almost like they had this really big like house that they were living in. I'm assuming it was like in the 20s or 30s, that flashback.
Like the 30s.
But you can tell that they were well off at the time, and then obviously,
his mom, and then the massacre happened.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that, but.
And so he was mostly known for making movies like that, but then he did commercial films, like the Chabelo and Pepito movies.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It seemed like his more commercial movies were
more well known
for sure, but they were more comedy drama based until he got to Profeta.
Yeah. And this was written by Eduardo Lujan, which was based on a story by Arturo Rosenbluth, which I couldn't find no info.
I only saw one credit for him, so I was like, I don't know.
It's such a mystery to me. And Eduardo Lujan, he was the same thing like Estrada. They both worked on like poverty stories about, religion, so forth, stuff like that. And and then our leading actor is Ignacio Lopez Tarso, who's like the most well-known actor in Mexico.
Yeah, absolute legend.
If you've never seen a movie, you've seen him on TV for sure. If you grew up in in a Spanish household, you'll recognize him right away.
I think a lot of times, I mean, his number one movie that people would know him from is Macario. He plays the leading role in that, and I get you look online, and a lot of the times you're gonna see that Macario is in the top 5, greatest Mexican movies of all time. I can agree. 1000%. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen Macario or not.
No, I was about to comment here. Is like I kind of like this back and forth between you guys, because one of the things I love is to learn about movies that I don't know shit about, because there's such a vast world of it, and like you kind of get stuck in pockets of what you're learning. So like being able to be introduced to like you're saying shit that I'm gonna go look into and like. Check out.
Like Macario's like playing like a lot now. Like they played at the Academy. It's like been playing everywhere now. So hopefully you catch it, Jim, one of these days. Yeah, for sure.
No, yeah, Macario is definitely deserves all the credit that it gets. If you haven't seen it, watch it.
And then Ignacio Lopez Tarso, he's like amazing in that movie. Like he just nails it completely.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the dude is an absolute legend. Over 100 credits. I mean, you know, he's been in almost pretty much every genre you could imagine.
Movies,
yeah,
stage plays. He even like does spoken. Well, he was doing spoken word like poetry.
well, he started in that world, right? Doing like kind of stage kind
play
of,
and then like spoken word.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would compose corridos as poetry even.
Damn, really?
Yeah, that was crazy.
That's sick. That's sick. Shout out to corridos.
And then the leading actress is Ana Martin, she's very recognizable in that era and on TV especially.
Yeah, well, she was 1968's Miss Mexico, so
Yeah,
she has that going for her.
Yeah, she was Miss Mexico in 1963, and then 65, that's when she started her movie career.
And she started, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but she started with Gilberto Martinez Solares, right? That was her first movie, was working with him, which if you guys have been listening to the show for the last year, you should know that name, and if you don't, you're obviously not paying attention.
We've only talked to the son.
I know, right? I'm going to stop you there because I want to say this, you know, if you haven't gone to listen to that, I know it's an interview in Spanish that we did with Adolfo Martinez Solares, but I, for the life of me, do not understand why that is our least downloaded.
We talk about. This is the guy that wrote Satanico Pandemonium.
I mean, you know that fucking movie, Jim, right? So, I mean, granted, it's in Spanish, so I can kind of see why it hasn't moved or hasn't been listened to as much as other shows, but I urge you guys to listen to that episode, especially if you understand Spanish, because the dude is just, I mean, a wealth of knowledge, and I mean, he's, you know, written, directed so many legendary Mexican movies. So
during that whole time,
at 1,000%.
He learned from the bastard himself.
Exactly. But yeah, so continue. Ana Martin.
Yes, Ana Martin, and she's a very recognizable face. Like when you see her immediately, like, okay, I've seen her in a lot of things before, and I recognize her from novelas from the 80s. That's when she really got very popular. And yeah, those are like the two very recognizable people in the movie, and she plays the. How would you say it? Not the love interest per se, but like the, you know, catches the eye of the, you know, the killer. You know, he's very protective of her. You know.
Yeah, that's definitely so she plays a girl named Rosita, and she basically lives in the building that this fool Angel Peñafiel, which I thought was the funniest last name because Mexicans know Peñafiel is like a mineral water, like a flavored mineral water. So hilarious, but AKA Mimi, that's the main guy. But so I assumed that he was kind of like the superintendent of that building, right?
Yeah, and he would open the door for them, remember, because it's like locked with the big wood thing.
Yeah, super old school lock. But yeah, she definitely plays. I don't want to say love interest because I don't think she felt that way about him. But he was definitely into her. Like he was kind of like her protector because they, you know, where they were situated at was kind of like a notoriously bad area, you know, bad neighborhood where you know, prostitution ran rampant, crime and all that shit. So he definitely was like her watcher, I guess you could say. But you know, there's a couple other people too. I mean, and he doesn't have a huge role in it, but Flaco Guzman, who we've talked about, Roberto Flaco Guzman, another absolute legendary Mexican actor. For those who aren't paying attention, go back and listen to our Oye Bro, Is It a Slasher Part 1.
You might recognize him in Tintorero too. He's in Tintorero.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, over 200 credits. The dude is a fucking legend. Yeah. Unmistakable when you see him.
Yeah. And then Ernesto Gomez Cruz, he plays Brother Mackenzie.
Hermano Mackenzie. And another absolute legend. Yeah, people would know him from Canoa, El Norte. I'm sure, Jim, you would know this movie, The Evil That Men Do. Mm-hmm. He played a small role in that movie. He was in The Mexican. One of my mom's favorite movies when it came out, El Crimen de Padre Amaro. You know, it's just kind of like a very controversial movie when it came out. More drama based than anything. And then of course he was in El Infierno, another absolute, you know, top 10 Mexican movies that, you know, people say.
Actor, like Ignacio, pretty much.
Absolutely, 1,000%, yeah. But there's a couple other people too, though. I mean, like his mom was played by Ofelia Guilmain, who, you know, she worked with Luis Buñuel when he was making movies in Mexico. Worked with Chano Urueta, who's, you know, another golden age legendary director. And then, you know, she moved on to novelas like most people did, but
that's where the money was at.
Absolutely. But she had 3 kids, but her son, you know, I want to get Jim's opinion on this too, because we talked about it a little bit a couple episodes back. But her son was in Jodorowsky's Holy Mountain, and I know me and Armando share the opinion that Jodorowsky is. We don't really consider him a Mexican filmmaker, even though he made movies in Mexico.
Well, he got excommunicated, had to live there.
Yeah.
Now he lives in France, so.
But so there's a tie in there.
Wait, so people consider him a Mexican filmmaker?
Yeah.
Like
Weirdly enough, yeah.
I mean, no,
he gets lumped into being
that's like saying like Terry Gilliam's a fucking British filmmaker. Yeah. He's American. He just happens to live there. Or Stanley Kubrick was a fucking British filmmaker.
Exactly.
Just because he chose to live there doesn't like you don't all of a sudden magically get your fucking like limey card or something like that.
I think what it is too is that people, because he spent a lot of time there and he made the majority of his movies there. People just kind of accept it. He's invited to the carne asada, as they say, but I don't really, me and Armando both share
can't say that he is.
Yeah.
I've actually never thought of him as like a Mexican filmmaker, mostly because I know he didn't come from there.
Yeah, people claim him though, man. A lot of people claim him as a Mexican movie
like
maker.
Fucking calling Wayne Gretzky like for the LA Kings. Like it's just like
that's a good comparison.
Sure he was there. Sure it was a good team. Sure good things happened, but like that's not where his home and heart is. Like Santa Sangre, like fucking great movie.
Absolutely.
It was also produced by Claudio Argento, Dario Argento's brother. So it's like there's the way exploitation works is like everyone comes from everywhere to make this shit happen because it takes money from different places, sometimes shady places.
Yeah.
But
that 100%.
I guess this is just my personal question. I don't know if you guys have discussed it on other episodes of podcasts, like just Mexico's like film industry and like how it worked. Because you mentioned a lot of actors and directors would go back to doing television and film and all that. Was it like easily interchangeable, or was there a time where like film was bigger, or was the money in television? Was it just something that kind of like went back and forth kind of thing?
Go back and forth, and then novellas were more popular than the films themselves. So of course, they're going to go to the novellas.
I think a part of it too was when the movie industry was kind of privatized a little bit. And unions, kind of took over, and a lot of people, kind of wanted to stay away from that. So the movie industry was kind of dead, like in the late 80s into the 90s.
Yeah, you started seeing.
And that was the explosion of the novellas, where, I mean, the novellas existed, before that, obviously, but that was like when they really took off. And I mean, if you wanted to make money, that's where you were going to go,
Yeah.
I guess I was just curious because I'm looking at other places like, Spain and Italy where like a lot of those guys, like eventually the film industry just died and they all went into television kind of thing. And
I
was
similar parallels. Right?
But this seemed to happen a little bit earlier, like in the 80s, where
that.
like maybe Italy and Spain like was 90s, 2000s.
For
where
sure,
like
80s in Mexico, yeah. Once you start seeing these actors appear in these novellas, you're like, okay, they're done.
Yeah.
Or they're starring in low budget shit, super low budget shit once the novellas are over.
And that's kind of the reason, I mean, obviously Armando's been writing about these, these movies for so long, but kind of one of the reasons, the podcast exists is to shine the light on that forgotten era of Mexican movies. That there's amazing fucking movies, amazing actors. Obviously, we just named off a couple of these. Granted, this movie was in the 70s, but even in the 80s and 90s, you had historic Mexican actors who worked in these low budget movies that don't really get any love anymore. People would rather, say Amor Respeto saved Mexican cinema, which I guess you can say that's true. But, there was a whole
gap.
Exactly. There's a gap in Mexico cinema history that people forget about. Yeah, and even if you go talk to people now, like,
they try to be like, no, that didn't exist. It's like, no, it's there. Even the actors liked it.
Yeah, I mean,
even they're like proud of it. They're not like ashamed.
As they shouldn't be, but
that's how it is, yeah.
Because I'm just always curious how cinema works, and like because I also know like another thing, like maybe not as much Mexico, but I know definitely in South America where like archives are like, I know Mexico has a really good archive.
Oh yeah, the archive is good.
But like some of the other countries where like materials are just fucking gone. It's sort of like Hong Kong in that way, where where they would fucking strike prints off the negative raw dog and then negatives gone. So like all you have like a like quarter-inch or like half-inch tape masters and shit like that. Because I guess my question is, because what we watched was it just a VHS rip and you guys subtitle it kind of thing?
Pretty much, yeah. It was a DVD technically.
Okay, DVD, but
that was a tape master source though, for sure.
That's what I guess I was getting. It's like, are some of these just kind of lost, or is it just also neglect or not caring? Because I
think in some cases, like these labels, especially this DVD label, Tequila Films, I mean, they just got like whatever they can get. If it was a tape master, that's it. They're not going to go out of their way and grab the 35 negative and scan it, whereas now they would probably do it for a boutique label or something.
Yeah. Because I do think, when it comes to world cinema, Mexico, which is, there's filmmakers that came out of it, but, there's a whole vast thing, I don't know shit about, mostly because, in the cultural, international film zeitgeist, it kind of gets left behind because it doesn't get, the Criterion treatment or whatever.
Yeah, so it's heavily ignored outside of, that.
But I'm saying, this is what I'm saying, I appreciate what you guys are doing, because it's, there's ton, I have one of my coworkers is Iranian, and I don't know shit about Iranian film, but he's hit me to stuff, and they don't have a lot of genre stuff per se, but it's kind of interesting to just learn about how different cultures went about making movies, because someone lean more art house or try to be commercial, and I don't know, I guess that I'm asking this for the context when we're going to get into what kind of movies were playing in Mexico in the time. That's also going to answer is this a Giallo Jason or not? Because were they getting imports from Italy or that kind of stuff to watch down there, or was it very kind of they just played Mexican films in Mexico, or did they actually bring in, obviously there's the famous Spanish language Dracula.
Yeah.
Which is the better version of Dracula.
It's interesting you bring that up, because during the 70s, that's when a lot of new directors were coming in. They call them the new wave, and a lot of them were very inspired by European cinema, and a lot of them were going to school in Europe and then coming back with those inspirations.
Interesting.
So that's why if you watch Profeta Mimi, you see a lot of European inspiration from it.
Yeah,
and the Social Estrada guys from UNAM, and a lot of people that were graduated from UNAM were, very interested in European cinema, and they wanted to bring that sort of aspect to Mexican cinema.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was kind of getting at, because, it's in America, U.S. films, but then you would get the art house or foreign films that would come through. But it was very, you have your Kurosawas or Bergmans and things like that. And I was just kind of curious, culturally, when it came to what played in a Mexican movie theater.
It was mostly just Mexican cinema. It was never really stuff from outside of.
Okay.
It was very rare. It was just these guys that were coming back from Europe or learning European cinema.
Learning European cinema, watching stuff at the European,
and then bringing it back over here to make it, make the industry better or more beautiful per se.
Okay.
Because that's what the government was expecting from these new directors too.
I mean,
they were funding the movies.
They had to have had some imports though, because I know when you did the first Trash Mex festival, and there was that whole table of a bunch of lobby cards and stuff.
Oh yeah, of course.
I have a Mexican lobby card for God damn, I just completely lost it. Il Policiota.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Which one?
God damn it! Hold on. You guys keep talking. I'm gonna look it up because it's gonna kill me.
No, but yeah, it's because what happens with films is especially if other filmmakers are watching things coming from other countries, it does kind of color what it is. I mentioned Hong Kong, and I'm looking because I can see Hard Boiled in your tape VHS over there.
I was supposed to see that. No, I'm just joking.
I used to have that tape, but John Woo was very moved by Melville, which is French, and then musicals, which a lot of American musicals, and that was the stuff that was imported in that he saw that went in to make his stuff. So I was kind of curious of what was filtering in at the time. That obviously Buñuel was there for a bit and probably pissed people off and left again. But
yeah, I don't know. But everybody worshipped Buñuel over there for the most part, and they learned from him even. So yeah, it's half and half. It's some stuff was imported, but mainly it was just these directors. Like I said, they wanted to be European in the in their home country. So that's kind of how it was, really.
I kind of get. I mean, even in America, it's kind of was everyone looked at all the European filmmakers that's who I want to be, kind of.
And that's
thing.
kind of how these guys were in the 70s. They were yep, we're gonna do this how they were doing it in Russia or Europe or Italy and so forth. So yeah.
But I think it's different cultures, different governments, that kind of stuff. So.
Exactly.
But anyway, I guess we'll get into the Prophet Mimi here.
Let's get into it. We definitely went off on a tangent there, but
it's all good.
No, it's all good. I mean, it's all relative to to the conversation, but I mean, I guess let's kind of start the discussion of whether or not we think that this is a Giallo adjacent, quote unquote, or not. I'll throw it to you first, Jim. What are some of the, themes in this movie, or what are, because I know you said there's some stuff about this movie that, you agreed with as being okay with calling it a Giallo versus some things that were not. So can you kind of go into what you thought those things were about this movie?
Some of it was in the directing, and that's why I was asking the question about what was important, like, because this movie came out in 73, correct?
Yeah.
Which is like would have been the tail end of like the Giallo wave in Italy. Like if they were getting stuff like a couple years later, maybe they were getting those Argento or Martino films down there, or I don't know. But like there's a lot of like what you call the God's eye view, like down angles, like looking down, like people walking the streets and stuff, which is a thing you'll see in a lot of Giallo movies and a lot of murder mysteries in general, or like tension building, like, well, what is this unseen eye watching, which is very Giallo-esque. Childhood trauma, big one for Giallo.
That was an obvious one. Yeah.
Religious bullshit, also a big Giallo one, depending on like if you're tearing it apart or you're like leaning into it, like someone like Fulci who fucking hated the Catholic Church made some pretty blatant fuck yous like it, and then other ones kind of embrace it, kind of thing. Got my little notes here. The flashback sequence, like but it predates it, which is kind of crazy to think about. Like, if you've seen Deep Red, there's a flashback to like the childhood trauma, and also predates another movie, which not really a Giallo, more of a slasher, the movie Nightmare.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Which is like there's a lot of like, and we can even throw in Bay of Blood in a way because of what happens. I guess are we spoiling things or?
No.
Really. You know what? Yeah, I mean, whatever, dude. I mean,
I'll try to tiptoe around it, but like the flashback also ties back to Bay of Blood and the ending of Bay of Blood specifically.
Oh yeah.
But like the thing is, I was looking at it, like there's also the sex trauma because like the dude's like dad brought home a prostitute. If I'm mistaken, unless I'm reading the scene wrong.
No, yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah, so prostitute. Dad's bringing a hooker home to mom and son. The son fucking whacks him. And that's the beginning of, like, the trauma. Like, that's a Giallo trope.
5 años me has negado mi derecho de marido. Pero ya se acabó. Te traigo a esta para que de ella aprendas. ¡Mira!
But what we'll get into is like you see who the killer is the whole time, and then it becomes like it almost plays more like a drama where it's like he's really heavy in thinking like, oh, the moral quandary of like me killing these people and like the religious aspect of it. So to me, where it starts deviating and starts heading into another kind of subgenre that like isn't really Giallo, but like you could make some trails back, is like the mama's boy. The mama's boy that's fucked up in trauma. You got Norman Bates. You got fucking Frenzy. You got like later stuff like Don't Go in the House, or like those kind of movies where it's like, oh, your mom's weird and fucked up and controlling and shoving religion down your throat, and either you become a crazy killer or you're really repressed or like that kind of stuff. And I think like the fact that like he's just spouting religious stuff as he's killing these like hookers is like it kind of takes it out of the Giallo aspect, because the murder mystery aspect is not there. You know who's fucking killing them.
That's true. That was my biggest gripe about it, is that we know who the killer is in the first 3 minutes of this movie.
But there have been Giallo films that have done that, and I can't think of any off the top of my head, like where you see the killer out front. It's not a common place thing. But also I feel like because it's more of like a character study in a way, because it's more focused on him and his relationship with his mom, and like it's kind of like if you got the backstory of who Jack the Ripper was, like you got to spend time with him. It's kind of more like that, and that's what kind of pulls it out of it. But like, you know, those like high angles and some of the staging of stuff, and even kind of like the way the murders are set up, there's some Giallo elements in there. But I think there's other things that will pull you right out of it, because there's just a lot of scenes of him like talking to his mom, talking to the girl he fancies that's also a hooker. Like, the man's got a lot of issues that unresolved from killing his dad and nameless hooker.
The hooker that was supposed to be for him, if I may add.
Oh yeah, it was, but he wasn't doing anything. So dad took it upon himself. Like, you gonna not gonna take the gift? He's cashing. I mean, he already paid the money, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the thing about like the flashback, the core memory that kind of drives the the trauma into this kid, that I think really paid off was, you don't see it in the first part of the flashback, that first sequence. You see it in like the later half of the movie where the flashback kind of starts to develop a little bit more, because we don't initially, I mean, we already spoiled it, but we don't initially know that he didn't, or that. Hold on, I lost my train of thought.
What you're getting at is you don't know why he's killing, and then you kind of get the basis behind it and why specifically.
Yeah. And then you're led to believe the mom was the one that killed him.
That's what I was going for, yeah. So
you're to assume the mom, is the one that killed the dad and the hooker.
That
probably drove, Mimi insane. But
to me, that's what kind of, another Giallo aspect, if you will, about the movie was how it turns itself, from where we think it's the mom who killed the dad and the hooker the whole time, but then later on, as as he's killing another hooker and the flashback kind of comes back, we learn that no, it was actually him that killed him. But
he was like fucked up all this time.
But I love that because when on that second half of the flashback, we learn why he's using that. I don't know if it was a scarf or like a stocking, but
it was a stocking.
And we learn why, because we were watching his dad, with this hooker, and he, takes off the fucking the stocking of the prostitute and starts wrapping it around her neck and is like kissing her, like. Kind of, I don't want to say being, having like a bondage relationship with this prostitute, but you can see kind of like that sexual violence start to kind of, shine its way into this kid's periphery. He obviously doesn't know anything about it, so when he sees that, that's what kind of starts to drive this mania where he's killing these prostitutes with a black stocking.
And then he's obsessed with that song. Remember, because they're listening to that song, which is called Me Chiamano Mimi, which is from the opera La Boheme. And then remember, the mom's telling him the story of the opera.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And then this is all leading to the killing, so
I mean,
a lot of trauma going on there.
Yeah, operas, you can make the use of opera, another Giallo trope, like the stalking, yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Like, go back to Torso and all that strangling, except that's a scarf that's red on black but not black on red, or whatever the fucking weird thing that still never makes sense, but always makes me laugh every time I think about it. But like, there's that aspect, but like, I feel like it's more of a character study, which a Giallo film doesn't give that much of a study on the killer, because like the killer's a focus, but it's everyone else that's involved.
That's true.
It's either figuring out who the killer is or trying to solve the mystery of why the killer's killing, when like everything's just up front. And yeah, it does have the reveal where you get to see in segments of like when he finally snapped. But the thing that really, like, it kind of stuck with me in the ending, and like it's the whole religious aspect. Like, I don't know if any of you guys ever read any Flannery O'Connor when you're in your school days. Like, Flannery O'Connor, old Southern lady that was very religious, but wrote these most fucked up like short stories and like things like. I think John Huston made a version of one of the movies called Wise Blood, which was about a preacher who was trying to create a new religion because God wasn't working for him. Like, lots of like moral stories, but the moral was everyone just fucking got killed in a horrible way. And like, you kind of question, like, how religious was this lady? Does she just fucking want to kill people? So in the ending with that, and he's like, I'll leave that without getting detail, like when the final act he does, and when he's just shouting religious shit at the end, and like the whole like crowd is getting around him, it kind of reminded me of something out of like a Flannery O'Connor thing, like a short story or whatever. It's just like he did this big religious act, and then it's just really a fucking horrible crime, and it's just like the duality of like, I did this for the Lord or purity or whatever fucking excuse he's making, and everyone's just like, no, you just fucking killed someone, and he just kind of leaves it at that. And it's kind of like an incredible ending. As we're talking about movies that don't do or don't stick the ending, it kind of sticks the ending with that.
Oh, 1000%. The ending really saved this one for me. And again, I said this before we were rolling. You know, I'm at the point of the year where I'm kind of movied out, so I didn't really enjoy watching this as much as I was hoping. But the ending really did make up for kind of the things that I felt were lacking in this movie because. As you just said, Jim, I mean, it's like this big grandiose, thing where he breaks, everything that he kind of stood for, he realizes was a farce. This religion that he thought he was a part of again was a farce. He goes to meets up with Rosita, sorry, at this secondary church that she's going to, and his mind is blown. Now he thinks well, it's not really a moral guideline anymore. It's kind of like a dichotomy of life where you can't love something unless you hate it, and that's kind of where he breaks and everything kind of falls off the rails at that point.
Para amarlo más hay que odiar a nuestra madre y a nuestro padre. Para amarlo más hay que odiar a nuestra madre. Su amor se parece al odio, se parece a la muerte. Estemos prevenidos porque está cercano el gran día de Jehová. Estemos prevenidos porque para amar a Dios hay que odiarnos a nosotros mismos y para amarlo más hay que odiar a nuestro Padre. Debemos platicar con nuestra soledad y vivir deseando la muerte.
And it's a great ending. It's not really a Giallo ending because usually when a good Giallo ending, like you get the killer reveal, you get all like them explaining their exposition of why they did it. I think one of the best Giallo endings ever is Deep Red. Oh, yeah. And I won't fucking spoil it. It's 50 years old.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it by now, come on, dude. You've had plenty of time.
When like David Hemmings confronts the mother who was, didn't think was a killer, but found out was the killer in the ending. Like the visceral of her, like when he puts it all together, all the fucking clues, everything lines up, and she just tries to fucking kill him, and it becomes this messy fight where like she's got a hatchet, he's got nothing, and then like her necklace gets caught in the elevator, and it's this big climatic thing where like basically she gets decapitated by the elevator in her necklace, and it's just him staring that pool of blood like, what the fuck? Like, that's kind of one of those Giallo endings, or like a lot of Giallo endings is like everyone's happy and they fucking ride off on a fucking boat or some shit. Like, there's a lot of Giallo boat endings. But then there's also ones where like they're not really happy endings where like everything's clouded. Like I think of Your Vice's Locked Room, like that ending where like killer thinks they got away with it, or the last piece of shit horrible human being standing thinks they got away with it, and it's like, nope, found the evidence, you're going to fucking jail now. Like there's no clean crime, and like in that movie, like every bad person like gets double triple crossed in a way that's just absolutely incredible. Like fucking Ivan Razumov's character in that movie, like he thinks like, yeah, I did this good thing. Nope, you get double crossed.
Oh yeah.
Luigi Pistilli, like he gets fucking double triple crossed. Like he's also in the Bay of Blood, which has a hilarious I don't even call it double cross, just a
twist.
It's a twist that's so fucking good and ridiculous that's just like, didn't see that one coming, and it's kind of fitting.
I feel like that's one thing that I see a lot of people talk about Bay of Blood, is that ending kind of throws them off a little bit, but I fucking loved it. I mean, I thought
it's a great ending because it's just like I feel like sometimes in Italy they feel like they have to have a moral ending where like bad cannot fully win. So it's like, cool, bad doesn't really win, but it's not really good winning either.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like a hilarious, like it's kind of like it's a black comedic moment, and there's a lot of it in Bay of Blood. And I think like another thing, like a lot of Giallo films that people seem to forget, a lot of them are funny. Like genuinely funny, not like I'm laughing at them because of like ridiculous shit, which there are those too, but like a lot of them are genuinely funny if you like pay attention, like watch how the performance is. Like Deep Red, there's a lot of fucking jokes in Deep Red. If you see the full Argento director's cut, there's even more jokes. Yeah. There's like fucking whole like comedy segments with Daria Nicolodi and David Hemmings in the movie, and like even the Martino stuff. Like there's little jokes, and this movie, Profeta Mimi, not a lot of humor in it.
Yeah, it's all serious for the most part. Really moody. There's really no laughs. Yeah, think about
it reminds me in another way. It just feels like this is kind of like what would be an Oscar bait movie now. In a way, like, I'm not even shitting you.
Yeah.
Like, it's the kind of thing where, like, some actor, like, big name actors, like, would take this, like, oh, the religious struggle, like, it, and, like, the performance is perfect for it. Like, the way that guy just builds it up, and, like, you know, you got the flashbacks and he's got his mom, and, like, you know, the questioning of his own morality or religious compass or all that kind of stuff. Like, it's a fucking nuanced performance.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you bring that up because that movie, it didn't get nominated, but he did get nominated for the Oscar over there, which is the Silver Ariel.
Okay.
But he didn't win, but, you know.
He got nominated. So, like,
so it is interesting that you bring the Oscar thing up.
I mean, because in a weird, and I think that's the other thing that pulls a Giallo film. Like, you know, it's like, it's very deadly serious. And, like, a lot of Giallo films aren't. Like, maybe it's something culturally in Italy where they just kind of knowingly, they're kind of fucking around at times. Or they're just like, whatever, we have this case of J and B, just put the bottles everywhere or something like that. But, like, yeah, because it definitely plays more like a drama at the end. And it's like a drama character study. It's like fucking... What's the fucking monster? Or like Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. Like, I think
that's a good comparison.
I think there's more lineage to that than maybe a Giallo film. I'm not saying there isn't Giallo elements. Clearly there is, but like how much of that is just being in Europe and watching those movies and like taking that as opposed to like, you know, the philosophical of what makes a Giallo.
One thing that I picked up on this was, and I didn't really see too much comparison online, and I did a little bit of a quick search. I didn't really go deep, but to me, this kind of had a lot of similarity to Bill Lustig's Maniac.
No, that's a fair point.
There's even the scene like when they're in the hotel and the fucking.
You know what? I had a thought. And I didn't write it down, but that's a good point. That's an excellent point. Like, you know, something like, you know, Maniac, which is also, in a weird way, is Joe Spinell's, like, fucking Academy I'm coming for kind of performance.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like, people probably are laughing just like you did, but, like, no, it's like Joe Spinell gives a fucking great performance as, like, a sleazy... Like, he makes you believe that Carolyn Monroe is interested in him. In some way, like in no fucking form of reality should that scene ever work. And goddamn it if they don't fucking pull it off. I know. At one point there was a version movie where they cut it out because I think Bill Lustig's like, why the fuck is this scene in here? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, they shouldn't be having like a romantic dinner or whatever. But like, no, it actually works. And I think Maniac is actually another good comparison. In like, you know, Maniac, there might be little hints of Giallo stuff in there because, you know, Bill Lustig was a big fan, but also I think there's enough things in Maniac that pulls it pretty far away because like you don't ever hear Maniac compared as Giallo Jason at all.
Never. No. But I think like, you know, specifically that scene where Mimi is in the hotel lobby with his friend who's kind of hard of hearing. They're playing chess and another, you know, sex worker in the neighborhood, what was her name? Catalina. You know, she shows up, you know, she's already in, and this is kind of another topic that this movie touches on kind of briefly is, you know, I don't know necessarily because they never really said that she had, you know, AIDS or anything because AIDS wasn't really a thing in 73, but she had some kind of immunodeficiency thing, you know, an STD.
Like syphilis or
something. Yeah.
Something contagious, you know.
Espérate tantito.
No quieras verme la cara de pena.
No es eso, es que... Mira, ven. Es que...
Enterrar y callar. No se puede saber por qué la mataron. Lo dicho, en este negocio nadie se conoce. Nadie se conoce.
¡Ay, ya no me pegues!
Pinche puta de mierda, ¿no ibas a pegarme tu mula enfermedad?
No es cierto. Si yo no quería, por eso te lo dije.
¡Jaque mate! Buenas noches, don Paco. Ya lo decía yo, muchacho. Yo nunca repetiré 2 veces el mismo disparate.
And of course he ends up killing her because he wants to basically save her. He doesn't want her living with this disease anymore, doesn't think that she's living the life that she should be living, especially with being infected with the disease. But just a kind of a funny quick thing about that is that actress who played Catalina, she plays Grandma Coco in the Pixar movie. Right, yeah. So you have a funny little tie-in there, but kind of go back a little bit more serious about that. I mean, I think that scene kind of epitomizes everything about the character of Mimi. He's protective of his building, because he lives with a known prostitute, someone who later becomes a prostitute. He also, he works as, I don't know if he was like a notary or, he just fucking, he just like writes notes for people. But Catalina was one of those who obviously comes to him a lot, to write letters for her brother. So, I mean, the whole time this movie, Mimi is trying to protect everyone from what he deems as evil, but it ends up being that he was the one who was actually the worst character, the worst person in the movie, certainly, but also in the neighborhood, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much more we can kind of go into, the themes of the movie. But
is this a giallo or not? Like remember how we debated about what's a slasher, what's not. So is this a giallo or not?
Yeah, flat out, and I'm just gonna say no.
What about you, Jim?
I gotta say no. It's I tried to make the case for it, but it's just like, I think because it's such a character piece which is really never a giallo film. Like it's a showcase for that guy to do this performance, and like giallo films are a lot of things. They're not like guy reaching for like award season.
Yeah,
and there's an undercurrent of that. Like this, I hate to use the Tropic Thunder metaphor, but it's kind of like, not that he's doing it like that ridiculous or whatever, but like it's it's the kind of, it feels like a movie that there's a lot of genre elements, but like at the end of the day, it's more of a fucking drama.
Yeah,
where Giallo would have been a lot more sleazier, and he's strangling prostitutes, which is pretty sleazy, but like there's the other aspects of it, and there's the performance aspect of it, and like I think You Say Maniac or Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, where there's like a key performance in it. And I think maybe if this made like a decade later and there was more gore and stuff like it might be closer to a slasher. But even then, I think this is more of a character study than anything else.
Yeah, I just think that it's missing, specific things that a giallo movie does, I guess effectively make this not a giallo. But again, I mean, we kind of playing devil's advocate this whole episode, where there are things that I guess you can stretch into labeling as kind of giallo adjacent or giallo influenced. But it just doesn't have the formula of a giallo that I think people expect. Yeah. And that's not to say that this is not a good movie, because even though it was hard for me to watch it just because of the mood that I'm in, this is actually a really good fucking movie. It's very well acted. The cast is absolutely amazing. I mean, there's top tier names attached to the movie. But again, I think it just doesn't have specific things that a giallo needs to have to call it a giallo.
So I don't know who did that online. That's how I was like,
well,
a lot of people. Like you look on the Letterboxd, people said it. You look on the IMDb, like the top 4 tags are Latin American giallo, Mexican giallo, giallo.
That's how I was like, I don't know, maybe. But I was like, well, let me see. I was like,
but I think because of just the element of it. But like again, if you look back, what was coming before, like you look at the Psycho or I forget what year Frenzy came out. I think Frenzy was pretty close to the same year. So
was it 72? I think or
Frenzy.
70?
But then would he have seen Frenzy in order to filter in?
Yeah,
Because that, and again, more strangling and all that. But I think also is there's a bunch of mama boy killers in Giallo films, but the mom's still here. It's an active character that he's interacting with. There's just a lot of things that don't happen in Giallo films that kind of take it out of it. And I think it also, while there's some great camera work in it, it's kind of missing that cinematic flair overall, a Giallo. It doesn't have the flash to it.
That's
it's a well-made, well-shot, well-directed film, but it just doesn't pop in the same way of something Strange Vice or Deep Red or any A Lizard and Woman's Skin or anything like that. It kind of just follows a very, very dramatic narrative.
Okay, perfect. So whoever tagged that was wrong online.
It was probably that one fool. What's his name? He shall remain nameless.
There's people online that like to just label movies. That's why I wanted to do a slasher one with Joy. Is so many people like to think so and so movie's a slasher. It's let me see what another person thinks. So of course Joy came along. We had other people come along, and it's no, this is not a slasher. No, it's not a slasher. So this is is this a Giallo or not?
I mean,
and of course, we're gonna have to have somebody, an expert in Giallo, which is Jim. And Jim's gonna say it's not a Giallo, so see.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's worth a watch. I don't know if we're gonna upload the link to it or not, but I mean, it's available. It's on YouTube. It's on DVD, obviously. So, I mean, if you're even semi-interested, just based off the conversation we were having, seek it out because, like I said, it is a really well-made movie. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's not a Giallo. It certainly doesn't take anything away from it. I mean, I don't know what else to say, really. I mean, it's just...
if you really want to see a Mexican Giallo, look up the Chicano.
Yeah, we talked about that last year, so go back. I think that's episode...
that was the second
God, I should have looked it up. It was episode 4, I think, or something.
3 or 4, yeah.
But yeah, check that one out. Muerte del Chacal, we'll that's definitely... we'll let Jim watch that one because you'll definitely enjoy that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's wind it down here. Jim, take the floor. What are you working on currently? This is gonna air, so obviously we recorded this kind of early because I'm gonna be on vacation for a couple of weeks. So this is gonna air January. I'm just gonna say it right here, right now. It'll be January 12th. So, the floor is yours, Jim. Promote yourself. What do you have working?
I mean, by this point, I'd be in week 2 in LA of January Giallo 2026. Probably one of my favorite lineups I've done. It's kind of weird because I always liked lineups, but this year happened to be, or this upcoming one, or I guess this will be in 2026. This year, the year of our Lord 2026, that this podcast will be on. This was one of my favorite lineups I put together, and it's mostly because it was all bucket list movies. I start off on the January 5th, which will already be done by this airs, but it's the Black Belly of the Tarantula, which is one of the great procedural Giallo films. Interesting flip on you have a rubber glove killer, there's fucking poison, shit. It's one of my favorites. It's top 5 for me, and I always I need to figure it out. And I got to shout out Celluloid Dreams. They were putting this out on Blu-ray.
Yep.
They had a Italian language printed. Hey, you want to screen it? I'm like, fuck yeah. I know it's going to be faded because it's on Eastman, and it's an Italian language, so we have to do soft subtitling, which, for those who don't know, is someone's live subtitling as the film is being projected.
Which is always fun. Those are some of the best January Giallos that you've done.
They always go off the rails. I to anyone that will ever have to soft subtitle something, go as people are talking. Don't try to translate. You will get fucking lost. Which happens inevitably every year. And it's people that actually can speak Italian. You're I don't know where I'm at. I'm yeah, because you're fucking trying to translate when sometimes subtitles you get are dub titles or whatever. Yeah. But it's just go as people are talking.
I'm kind of bummed that I'm missing because, like you, I put this in the top 10 for me. I love this movie. Amazing Ennio Morricone score for those who, So I am really bummed that I'm missing this one, but I'm glad that I'll be back in town. I'll fly in, I think the day before this episode airs, which is another one of my well, I don't know if it's a top 10 for me, but it's another great Giallo, which I'll let you.
It's in my top
about.
20. Yeah. It's the House with Laughing Windows, which is. It's great, slow burn, weird. I forget the name of the actor, but he was the star of Bloodstained Shadow, which I showed in 2025, which was another great screening with a train wreck moment of a soft subtitling. This is another Italian language print. Like, I knew about this print for a while, but I also knew that Arrow Video was getting ready to restoration, and they were tying up the rights, so I was just kind of waiting. So it'd be easier to book kind of thing. And, like, honestly, I had a different movie instead of Black Belly, but, like, once that fell on my left, it's like, fuck it. How many more years of this can I keep doing as film programming? I might as well get this one done because it was one I've looked for. And, like, I don't have many more bucket list movies left, especially January Giallo wise. I think maybe it's The Red Queen Kills 7 Times. It's like the last,
that'd be fucking sick.
That one's like, I think rights are with the Italian owners, which is fine, but it's just like finding anything material wise that isn't like a Blu-ray has been a little tough. But eventually I'll crack that. But yeah, The House with Laughing Windows, it's a great one. Like Puppy Avate, who also did Revenge of the Dead, or Zetter, which is one of the great, well, I wouldn't say great, it's a very slow burn zombie movie. Like I saw that many years ago when I lived on the East Coast at Exhumed Films, like Italian all-nighter. It was the movie they played before Burial Ground.
Fuck yeah.
And like I was like, all right, maybe I'll try to sleep. It's like, no, what's going to happen? And it's like one of those movies where it's just like you think something big's going to happen, and it just like it keeps you awake when like nothing's happening.
Yep.
It's still a good movie, but like goddamn Zetter. But it made watching Burial Ground 6 in the morning all that better, because by that point your brain's fucking broken, and then you see Peter Park come out. It's like, mommy, this cloth smells of death, and you're off the races. But like, yeah, House with Laughing Windows. It's been a bucket lister one. The next one, I gotta shout out my friend Phil at the New Beverly again, because this is his print from the Academy, which is Nothing Underneath, which is one of the most fun, ridiculous, bonkers 80s gialli. At a point where like they were still making them occasionally, but this is definitely very fashion oriented. And one of the main actors, Tom Shanley, who's the main guy, he's the fucking like whatever state park he's a park ranger at that goes to Italy when his sister disappears.
Yep.
Like, it's fucking insane. Donald Pleasance plays an Italian cop. There's the infamous scene at a Wendy's where I don't know why, and I'm gonna have to ask him about it. He's probably not gonna know why they shot in the fucking Wendy's, but it's like, I just need to know. It's like, it's a choice, especially if you grew up in the 80s or 90s and you got to experience the Wendy's salad bar, which I don't think exists anymore. I haven't been in a Wendy's for years. I don't know.
No, it's not.
I
feel like I remember they did have that in the 90s, right?
Yeah, they had.
Yeah, for sure.
They definitely.
Yeah.
It's like it was just like it had a salad bar and they had chili on the side. Like it was insane.
The chili is still like a staple at
Chili
Wendy's.
is
People
still-
love that shit.
Yeah, it's like I haven't eaten meat in like fucking 15 years. So I haven't been in a Wendy's since. But like I do have like the nostalgia part of me remembers like out of all the fast food chains. Like Wendy's was underrated and kind of better than the rest.
Yeah, before I went vegan, Wendy's was the fucking shit. I used to love it. But in my neighborhood, they didn't have a Wendy's until fairly recent. I think I was out of high school. We had to go to Magic Mountain if we wanted to go to Wendy's, because that was the closest one.
That's a fucking hike for Wendy's. I mean, you gotta love those fucking fries and Frosties and shit. I mean, I went to Magic Mountain for like one of the Fright Fest. I can't remember what it is. Recently, I've only been once other time. I went because it's Magic Mountain's where the Revolution roller coaster from Roller Coasters from. It's in other movies, but I don't count Roller Coaster. But I went there for Fright Fest, and like it's a hike to get up there. But it's also like Six Flags. They don't know how to queue their fucking rides or anything at that park.
I couldn't tell you the last time I've been there, but I mean,
there was. I didn't even know about the roller coaster.
No, well, there's also the True Romance roller coaster. The Viper is also there too. But like, really, the Revolution, because it's also in Van Nuys Boulevard. It's in Vacation.
Right.
It's also in Kiss Meets the Phantom.
yeah.
Nothing but hits. But like, but anyway, back to Nothing Underneath. I know we got sidebar with Wendy's there, but like, no, it's just a bonkers movie. And like, you know, I actually was going to play it last year, but like when you book movies out of the Academy, like they only have a certain amount of bookings per month, and if they use all your bookings, you have to like push, and like they're like, oh, we have an opening in February. I'm like, a little too late, and that's why I pivoted when I did the Void 9 year. I got Tammy the T-Rex out of the Academy because I was like, well, if I have a slot, I might as well get the R-rated cut of that movie. And the last movie I'm showing for the January Giallo is Robert Altman's Images, which I already previously mentioned. This is a bucket list because I love Robert Altman, especially like his 70s period, because like he's made MASH, he made The Long Goodbye, he made Brewster McCloud, which is just an insane fucking movie. And like Images is just like this weirdo like art house horror, very Giallo adjacent, very like Persona Repulsion stuff. And then he went and kind of did it again, but not as weird as Images with three women.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
but I big Altman head. So, and also this was a movie I was like trying to figure out who the fuck owns it or has the rights, and it's with Handmade Films, which was the production company, who don't always own their stuff, but like they were kind of hard to get responses from. So I was really happy that like just kind of pushed on to make it happen, because like I saw a couple of theaters play, like, hey, who'd you clear rights with? They're like, and,
You're like, all right, conversation's over.
It's like there was a period in programming where it was easy to kind of do that and just like, well, you'll just deal with it if they come after you. And like nowadays, it's clear your shit before you fucking screen it. Because
that's got to be like half the battle for you, right? Is getting these movies cleared.
It's easier than it ever was, because like you have things like AGFA and like, you know, a lot of like Park Circus, which controls the Warner and MGM titles and things like that. There's a lot of things that make it easier, but then occasionally you get an outlier of like who the fuck owns it, and you will go in circles. There's a story that one day, if I write the Cinematic Void book, I will get into about a movie that we went to the source. They didn't get back to us. We went through this whole wild goose chase for this 35 millimeter. The day of the screening, the rights holder contacted, and it became a nightmare.
Oh,
and
shit.
we didn't play that movie, but like, I'll just say it was fucking rad. Well,
Of all the movies,
no, but it was, well, because it was a movie that was with TriStar, and that rights went up, and no one could tell us who had the fucking rights. But there was a theater in Canada that would play it on 35, so we knew there was a print. So I was like, we'll figure out the print. We got a hold of the screenwriter. At no point, no one told us who had it, and it was with Talia Shire, because her husband had produced it. And like, nothing against them. It was just like, sometimes when you try to book things and try to figure out how to clear them, you take a gamble, and it's a gamble like I don't recommend taking, because then you get your screening shut down, or like someone asks for a lot of fucking money or more than it costs for the screening. You know, it's like, so now like if it's like everything gets cleared, and like it's just easier. And like, you know, there was a movie I wanted to play this past November that I'm actually playing in February, which is Revolver, the Oliver Reed Fabio.
Oh, sick! Hell yeah!
Like, I was doing it for my Oliver Reed month, and it's with the Italian rights holders, and like, you know, they back and forth and kind of slow, so I had to move before it could get cleared. But like, once they said, oh, you can finally show it, I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna wait and just show it again, because I love that movie. But like, you know, it's like, could we have shown it without like any repercussions? Maybe. But then like, then you got to deal with someone's going to send you angry emails and fucking lawsuits and all that stuff. So clear your movies. That's programming advice number one. Clear your movies, because your life will be easier. And a lot of the places that you have to work with, especially if you're doing DIY kind of screenings, which are outside of like regular theatrical, like ACFA or Swank or things like that, they'll work with you. And it's much easier than getting an angry email from someone and a cease and desist or anything like that.
Burn bridges and shit.
Yeah. Because that's the main thing. The main thing is to show movies, but show movies and like get people to see it. And like, you know, once you show a movie, it might help a distributor like get the movie out there in a bigger way. That might help a restoration or a Blu-ray. Like, there's tons of things that can happen with like stuff. And like, you know, when I started like almost a decade ago, it was some of these were fucking crazy to clear, because like you would deal with dual people that would say I have rights, and like one of you's lying or you're both lying, and neither of you have the rights. Like, I mean, I think the funniest one before ACFA kind of took control over it fully was Blood Rage, the Thanksgiving slasher.
Oh yeah.
I had to clear the movie with the fucking what we call the Blood Rage lawyer.
Oh god.
Like, they basically, there was a company that was putting it out on VHS and like claimed to have rights, and they didn't, so they sued and won and got a shit ton of money and got the movie back. So they were controlling theatrical on it, and the guy was like, hey, you want to do a run? I'm like, no, I just want to show Blood Rage once.
we can let you screen it for 2 weeks if you want.
No, he was asking for a week run. I'm like, dog, no one's gonna come for a week of this movie. I'll sell out one screening of it, and like that's great, but like, yeah, but but it's easier now because like, you know, as repertory or like as boutique labels are picking up theatrical rights, a lot of them go through AGFA. Some of them don't, but then you have like Grindhouse, pretty good control of their stuff. Blue Underground has their stuff, and like, you know, most of the movie studios. But like the weirdest one are like things that were studio movies that fall out because they were pickup productions, and once those rights get messy, it gets messy because then it's like, does it go back to the production? Does it go back to a certain guy? And there's also like weird films that like, there's a pharmaceutical company owns like 2 movies, and one of them's the Stepford Wives, the original one.
Fuck.
Because they just bought a company and like somehow is tied in there, and like they'll let you clear it, and they'll actually won't charge you for it. They're just like, hey, thanks for letting us know.
Oh shit.
But it's that's how weird movie rights are, which is why like when we were talking a little bit like, you know, clearing Mexican films, because like I know you told me a little bit, and I've known other people like trying to clear that stuff. It's like, it's kind of dicey.
Yeah, you have to gamble, or you just you don't even know.
Yeah, it's
luckily AGFA does have some stuff, so it's like, all right. But then there's stuff that's outside of it, and you're just like, wait, who the fuck owns that? And you're just like, oh, well, they're saying they do. Oh, but their brother says they do. Their fucking lawyer says they do. It's like, what? Well, who?
Yeah, well, outside of the Blood Rage lawyer, which was the only guy that could give us a real answer.
Yeah.
When lawyers get involved in like what you can show or not show, it's
exactly. No,
it gets
I know
messy.
what you're talking about,
But you know, I think, you know, we can all speak to it. We all love movies, and like that's part of the adventure. And like, even if you don't see them in the theater or have the opportunity to program stuff, like, you know, just check out new shit. Like all the stuff you guys talked about, like I'm interested in, because as I said, like I want to find new stuff, because like at a certain point, like, you know, streaming curation is kind of like heavy-handed in one way, even to an extent like boutique labels are like going to be kind of curated in a way, because like, you know, both of those, there's a financial aspect, and you know, even film programming, there's a financial aspect because they cost money to show movies. Like you have rights, materials, all that stuff. So it's like sometimes you have to explore, and like I'm not telling people to go torrent shit of hard to find stuff or go on YouTube or like unauthorized stuff on Tubi, but like there's a fucking goldmine of stuff. Like there are actual gems that are out there. They might look like shit because they're VHS rips or Laserdisc rips or whatever, but like check that stuff out.
Yeah, take a chance on it.
Yeah, we're big supporters of that. I mean, it sometimes that's the only way to watch it is to, you know, find a fucking MKV of that shit online, so on a torrent or something, or it's on YouTube or Internet Archive. But you know, and if that's the only way to watch it. But at some point, you know,
want it to be like, you know, out there more and more.
Exactly, yeah. You want to create a dialogue about it. You want to kind of get more eyes on it, and then hopefully, like you said, that leads a boutique label like Severin or Vinegar to want to pick it up and release it and restore it, and, you know, give it the treatment that it deserves. You know, that's kind of the whole point of what we're, at least in my eyes, that's kind of the whole point of what we're doing, you know.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, that's
always been the thing. Yeah.
That's the purest mission, really, is just like make people want to check out movies, and like if you can help facilitate a nice version of it coming out, because like, you know, there's tons of lost movies that like, and not just like the historical like silent films that are gone. Like there's movies from like the 70s, 80s, and 90s that are fucking gone.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And no one knows where they are, and like, you know, if they're on film, if those materials aren't fucking stored right, they might be gone. That YouTube rip might be the only archive of something.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's what we got. We got to get a cinematic void doing some a Mexican month or something.
No, I actually, you know, I was talking about like, because you just did the Santo. Like, was it 3 months or something?
It was about 3 months, 4 months.
I before I saw you doing that, I was like, I'd been fishing around trying to find prints of it. So I don't know. I mean,
there's elements.
There's elements like, so
it's possible.
But there's a whole there's lots of genre stuff. Like, you know, like, oh, I'm blanking on the fucking title. It's like, I think it's Grave Robbers, or like the one with Hugo Stiglitz. I might be mixing up.
Cemetery of Terror.
Thank you. Which is on Halloween. Like, that's a fucking fun one. You know, there's Don't Panic, which is like one of the most like.
Oh yeah.
But
the new Beverly played that like 2 or 3 years ago.
There's
right?
a print of it, definitely.
There's a print. As the print.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about Don't Panic is like whoever fucking programmed that synthesizer had no clue what they're doing. Those people,
you know what's funny? You bring up Don't Panic because Ignacio Lopez Tarso's son
is in
plays
Don't
Tony,
Panic,
the killer. Yeah, so that's him. So funny connection there. Yeah, that was something I forgot to mention in the notes. Yeah,
I did a Elm Street Elm Street knockoff. We did that in the Bollywood one, Mahalaka or whatever, which is like also really like. It's kind of why like I was asking like what culturally was going on, because you think of like Bollywood and like Nollywood and that kind of stuff where they would just rip off other movies that they had seen because they were getting those imports, or like someone was getting bootlegs of them. Like, hey, you know what would make this movie better? Making a musical.
And picnics.
Picnics.
Literally, it's picnics and music, and then Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, I mean, at least those are tame. Like, there's Bollywood movies where like they're 3.5 hours. There's flashbacks. There's musical numbers within the flashbacks. You forget what movie you're watching, and all of a sudden flashes forward back to where you were. Like, wait, what the fuck happened? I can't tell you the name of it, but there was a I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Oh, I heard
Bollywood movie
I know,
where like it was insane because one of the kill scenes, and I don't care if I'm spoiling because most people aren't ever going to seek it out. I don't even know what it's called, but there's a guy running in the fucking snow, which I don't think, which is weird because those movies took place on the 4th of July, but whatever. This guy runs in the snow, he falls on the ground, the killer's right under him in the snow and reaches up and stabs him. It's like the most ridiculous thing.
Sounds fucking tight. I don't know.
I mean, it's like not everything has to be that fucking stupid, but like I do enjoy. Sometimes you enjoy brain rot.
1000%. Yeah.
But sometimes you want something that's like a little more artistic and effort. Like the Prophet Mimi is like it's a well directed movie, and I think like labeling as a giallo might get more people to see it, but I also think it's a slight disservice because I think people, if you go in expecting like a giallo film and you're getting really a fucking dramatic character study, it might not be what you're in the mood for.
Yeah. Well, that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
That's what I was a little bummed about it, but at once again we got to the end and I was like, you know what, this movie is actually really fucking good. But I don't know if you want to tease anything that's coming up in February. By the time
I mentioned Revolver. February is going to be the 10th anniversary of Cinematic Void, which is like Jesus Christ.
Do another marathon. A 10 movie marathon.
I don't think there should be a marathon. The 7 was pretty wild, and like that one, like I had a couple other things that had to fall out because it came down to cost and all that. But I'm proud of the back half of it, which was like Silent Rage, joysticks, and barrel.
You got a lot of people that were pissed about joysticks. They were like, "This movie fucking sucked," which is crazy to me because joysticks is one of the best. Like,
what the fuck?
Yeah, there's a lot of
I'll quote my friend Mike Felix. Joysticks is the funniest sex comedy where not a single fucking joke that's written in the movie lands, but it's somehow hilarious.
Yeah.
But Joe Don Baker just goes for it, and fucking King Vidiot for life. Like, I know people hate it, but it's like also it's a merit. Like, I gave you the Warriors. What else do you want? You got like the crowd pleaser right other, and then you got Beyond the Darkness, which fucking took the room down.
Yeah.
I'd never seen happen, but I was quite proud of that 1-2 punch. And then I gave you 2 Universal titles. But like the back half of Silent Rage, joysticks, and Barrel Ground. There's a lot of people who didn't like Barrel Ground either.
Yeah.
But
I'm still trying to convince one of the little homies, like he's like he didn't like it. And I'm like, dude, you gotta watch it again, man. You didn't actually see it. It's the problem.
No, Burial Ground is a masterpiece because it's so bonkers. But like, it was the weirdest reaction I've ever. Burial Ground. I played it once pre-Void, and I've done it twice in Cinematic Void, and I've seen it too many times theatrically. Usually not trying to see it. Like I saw that marathon. Exhumed Films like would always play their zombie stuff. Like, oh, cool, I guess Burial Ground's playing it. And it would usually be the first movie. And I'd be going to see something else, which I know we're getting off topic here. But like the last time I saw it before moving out here, it was Exhumed Films was doing a zombie triple feature. It was like Burial Ground, Nightmare City, and Hell of the Living Dead. Sick. And Hell of the Living Dead was the only one I hadn't seen in 35. So I was like, I was stoked to see it. We get there. It was at this weird theater in New Jersey. And they're like, oh, they accidentally booked an extra screening of The Passion of the Christ.
What the fuck?
So one of your movies is now The Passion of the Christ. Which, in a weird way, was fitting because the Italian effects crew, it's It's the only time I've seen The Passion of Christ. And my only takeaway is there's a scene where it implies Jesus invented tables.
I guess I got to rewatch it. I don't know.
He's like, look, Mom. And she's like, and Mary's like, what is it? It's a table. Like Jesus invents a table. But like, I mean, it is an exploitation movie. It's like they beat the shit out of Jesus for like
they
the
really
last
fuck him
40
up
minutes of it, or 2 hours. I don't know how long the movie is. It's like,
when you look back on it, it's like, that is a exploitation.
Oh, I mean,
when it came out, it was like this big event.
No, I don't understand how anyone like who is very religious go in and like, oh, I had a religious experience. Like, no. This is like every fucking like Italian fucking like this is like Fulci doing fucking a Jesus movie. Yeah. Down to the crow pecking out the one thief's eye on the cross, and then God's tear causing an earthquake. What the fuck was that? All right, I'm completely off tangent, but like
we've fallen off the rails here.
But yeah, your friend needs to get online, and Barrow Ground's a masterpiece.
Oh yeah, he's I'm sure he's gonna listen to this, so he knows exactly who he is.
And just to wrap up, it's the 10th anniversary of Cinematic Void. Like February, I'm gonna probably do some like 70s action movies. Okay. It's like variety of things. March, my partner is very much in the musical theater. We planned a whole month of like musicals, like some very out of pocket, some kind of classics, just kind of do something different, because like the thing I find out is like, when you're doing a lot of genre stuff, it kind of wears on me, and it wears on the audience, because like I do weekly screenings, and I can't depend on the same 150 people to show up every week for something. So I got to make a variety of stuff. So sometimes I take a wild swing and see who comes out, and like sometimes it works, sometimes it falls flat, but you know what? If I can convert one person to come see fucking Burial Ground again, I've done my job.
Yeah, and that you have, because again, Cinematic Void has been a staple in LA. The programming is always top notch. I don't get to go as often anymore just because I live so fucking far, and it takes me over an hour to get to the LF3 from my house. But anyone listening, if you haven't gone to a Cinematic Void, I don't know what you're doing. Get your ass there. And hopefully we can bring you back on another episode on another movie that's a little closer to a giallo.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, with that, thanks for listening. You guys, obviously follow Jim on all the platforms. I think you're just Cinematic Void across the board, right?
Yeah, I think the only one is Twitter. We only call it Twitter because X is dumb. But
yeah,
there's like a fucking like, I don't know, space in there, but everything. It just look up Cinematic.
Yeah,
you'll find
it'll be tagged in the show notes, guys. But follow him, on everything you guys use for your social media, of course.
In Southern California, just come on.
Show up to Cinematic Void. You'll probably see me there.
I've only been there a few times, but like I said, every time I've gone, it's been a blast.
Never
disappointed. Every screening that I gone, it's never.
Thank you both, and thank you for the kind words, and thank you for having me on. This was a great privilege, and like I said,
it's the most random thing. It's like, why do I have Jim from Cinematic Void here?
Well, I did drive 2 hours here, so
yeah. Well, I drove 3, so but yeah, thanks again, Jim. Everyone listening, thanks. Follow along. Follow Armando and I. Follow the Trash Megs podcast on Instagram. Trying to build that page up, to separate the podcast from everything else personal. I don't know what else there is to say other than thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
The following episode is gonna be obviously it's February. We teased it already. In the clip I'll play right now, it's gonna be for lovers and for heartbreak, since it's the February, the month of love, for cheaters and for non-cheaters. So enjoy that, and we'll see you guys in February. Peace.
Próximamente estrenaremos
Cuando pasan cosas así me siento tan mal de haber sido infiel. Eduardo es un hombre tan recto.
Cálmate, Julieta. Si sigues llorando, te pueden descubrir.
Lo que pasa es que no sabes lo que significa Eduardo para mí. Me da estabilidad, un concepto de hogar. En cambio, Marcelo es una pasión nada más. Es una locura.
Te comprendo, Julieta. Pero acuérdate que no se puede tener todo en la vida.
Eso ya lo sé. Me va a doler mucho decirle a Marcelo que ya no lo voy a ver, pero es lo mejor.
Ay, prima, ¿qué diera yo por tener tus problemas? Tienes a 2 hombres que te enamoran, que te llenan, que luchan por ti. En cambio yo me tengo que conformar con la porquería de marido que tengo.
¿Y por qué no lo dejas?
Mira, es un hombre que me da asco, pero en cuanto pienso en el dinero que tiene, se me quita.
¡Qué bárbara! En cambio, Eduardo y yo hemos luchado mucho para tener esta estabilidad económica.
Todo va a salir bien, créemelo. Ahora límpiate esas lágrimas y vamos con todos. Si no, te van a descubrir esta vez. Ven.